So we have an opportunity because the company utilizes word of mouth. So I kind of trying to get that all in because we want to hear from you, John. You are the one that really the background with thousands of products produced for hundreds of companies, a formulator of how many decades? How many years have you been in formulating?
Let's see, February, it'll be 37 years.
Wow.
That's a long time.
It's almost 4 decades. Just that it was really formulated out of a personal need of one of the top nutritional formulators in the world. And here we are with you today. We'd love to hear your story. How did Isagenix come to be?
Okay. That's really a big question. I hope we have a little time. Well, first, let me make a comment. Your criteria for actually evaluating network marketing companies, people to people, person to person, is the number one way to share health and wellness in the world. There's no other way to do it. And you mentioned, the company has to have the integrity of products and consumables and so forth to meet all of these things that make a company successful like Isagenix. Well, let's go back to 1980. A little prior to 1980, I was working with a company here in Chandler, Arizona, and we were working on organic plant food. So non-chemical, herbicides, pesticides, superphosphate fertilizers, to grow organic foods and commercialize it. And that's actually where I evolved from organic growing into human nutrition because of number one, the discovery of a plant deposit of mineral and trace minerals from ancient plants that's been buried for, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. Whoops, I better turn my phone off here. So let me I'm sorry to do this. Let me just put it on airport or something.
No worries.
No problem.
Believe me, it's going to start ringing. Okay. So here I was doing the plant tissue analysis, soil analysis. We were doing atomic absorption, testing soil to find out what was lacking in the soil. One of the number one things that were lacking was the microbial activity in the soil. And dead soil is really bad to grow in. You need the interaction of the microbes to interact with the roots, the rhizomes of the plant, the organism that's being grown, in order for it to extract the mineral and trace minerals and all these nutrients into the plant. So food today compared to 100 years ago is like night and day. I used to use the analogy, like 50% less of the nutrients than what my grandfather was eating. It's probably worse than that today. So anyway, I received this plant material and I knew what it was almost immediately when we started doing the analysis on it. And I knew I could take that and make an extract and purify it into a liquid form, fit and absolutely compliant for human nutrition and animal nutrition, and it would just be absolutely a miracle and put back into the body what we're missing in those microbes, all of the mineral and trace minerals, because that's the spark plug of life. Without minerals in your body, there is no life. And just take all of the minerals out, we would have nothing alive on this earth. So that's one of the key, most important things in health and wellness nutrition, even more so than vitamins or anything else. Without minerals, your heart would stop and you would cease to exist. So that was the first product, that I actually put onto the market. I launched that, started the checking account in February 1980. And I deposited $600 into the account. And that was the beginning of setting up, the plant and so forth. Of course, I had, more money invested later, but I remember the deposit slip was $600. And we set that up, started launching the product in a very slow way. And almost overnight, it became, an absolute hit. It made such a dramatic difference in people's lives. It was being sold all over, basically, different countries, all over in the mom and pop health food stores, GNC and so forth, and it kind of boomed. But there was something always missing. We got a lot of people, and this was kind of before the internet. This was, 1980. We weren't really using the internet until kind of the mid to the latter part of the 80s. So it was a lot more primitive back then, and a lot harder to do things as compared to right now. We're living an ultrasonic lifestyle.
Yeah.
So people kept asking, what else do I take with the minerals? What kind of vitamins do I need? So I started researching and traveling and looking at all of these different nutrients and building blocks that the body needs. And, I actually formulated a supplement, a vitamin product that would go along with those magic minerals that people, had just miraculous increase in health and energy and vitality. By the way, that's the base of Isagenix today. So that's really one of the key ingredients that actually bring life into the whole product and system. Then adding all of these different building blocks, the right amino acids, the right enzymes, all of these different nutrients, you can build not a one-hit wonder, not the magic silver bullet that everybody thought the liquid mineral was back then at that time, but you build a system, and that system consisting of maybe over 200 ingredients build our whole body health and what we need to sustain life and live a better quality of life. So that's actually when it began. I kind of branched out. People were begging me to do formulas for them. So I built, a very small manufacturing plant. And by about 1984, 83 or 84, I actually started doing formulas, vitamins, vitamin C. We started promoting ester vitamin C and all these different ingredients and actually making products for other companies. So I ended up, it was, several years later, there was kind of a conflict of interest between my products as compared to the private label products. And it was almost like I was competing with them. I had to make a decision which way, I really wanted to go. And because, I had not really focused on marketing, that was kind of my weak area. And I'll tell you later why Jim and Kathy are geniuses, and came into play and actually created Isagenix. I was not really in a position or felt that I could manufacture the products and market them. So I started focusing making products for other companies. Now, as we all know, network marketing companies are a dime a dozen. They're here today, they're gone tomorrow, they disappear. And I had that experience, and this has been going on for years and years and years. Way back, in the Shackley days and, like the late 1950s, 1960s, network marketing has actually been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I started getting companies coming to me wanting products. Network marketing companies, they would put deposits down, they would bring formulas, or they would want a formula. They either didn't have the experience, they didn't have the knowledge to market, they were underfunded for whatever reason. I'm telling you, I probably manufactured products for 50 to 75 network marketing companies that are gone, that never survived because either internal fighting, not the professional, internal, all of the staff and the executives to really keep a company together. And so my experience with network marketing companies, being in the back room, being in the conference rooms, being in the planning stages, being their manufacturers, some of the companies, had like an absolute, surge of sales and so forth. I remember in the let's see, in about 1994, 95, I started manufacturing some products for one network marketing company, and their sales grew to about $60 million a month, and they completely imploded. Everything fell apart internally, and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Really sad. And so there are a lot of people out there that don't have confidence, in this type of a system, but it's the best system. It's the best way you can go out and share products on a personal basis, share your testimony, and personally bring people back into better health. And also it dramatically affects their financial income.
Absolutely.
Like we were living in such a dangerous zone, and I'm petrified of snakes. Well, I was bit by a little spider called a brown recluse, and it completely changed my life. In fact, if it wouldn't have been for that tragic incident, Isagenix would probably not be here today. So people ask me, if you could change back time, would you do something different? I can honestly say I would not do anything different, because it was actually that spider bite, in my fight in the hospital. I was in the first stay in the hospital. I was in for 45 days. The venom had entered my bloodstream. It was affecting my organs. It was affecting my vision. It was affecting my optic nerve. It caused total blindness at that time in my left eye. And I mean, it was complete pitch black darkness. I had some numerous debris, the necrosis, where the spider venom, where the spider bites, actually just kind of deteriorates and falls apart. So the necrosis of cleaning that, and opening the foot up, my foot was literally, I won't get into the graphics of it, but it was really in bad shape. They came in with a clipboard, and Patty, we were talking about this earlier. They actually came into my hospital room. I was going through this debriding every day. It was a horrible mess. 2 doctors came in. They shut the door. They had a clipboard, and they said, "Mr. Anderson, we're really losing the battle. We have to remove your foot up at the ankle today, and we've scheduled you for surgery." And it was probably about 9 a.m. We've scheduled you for surgery for 2:30 this afternoon, and there's really not much we can do, because if we don't do this now, we're going to have to remove your leg up to the knee and then eventually up to the hip. And so it's better to, get rid of the damage and so forth. And I said, I told him I'm totally against that. Let me think about it. And I was trying to get him out of my room. Now, I don't know if you know what a PICC line is, but it's like 2 or 3 feet long. It goes through the arm. It's sewn in, and it's a PICC line that goes through and dumps into the heart to give very dangerous antibiotics. Because if you just put them intravenous, in the arm, the antibiotics will literally burn holes into your arm. So they dump it into the heart. So I began, as soon as they left the room, I was going to escape from the hospital. And I started taking the stitches out, and I took this IV line and pulled it like 3 feet out of my body. And I was getting my stuff, and up. I got a hold of a wheelchair, and I was leaving the hospital because nobody was going to cut my foot off. I knew there had to be another way. Well, I was caught. They came back in, and saw the PICC line out and so forth, and started talking to me. And I said, "You're not cutting my foot off." So anyway, to make a long story short, 11 surgeries. I still have most of my foot, but I did lose, the front half. So, as my grandson used to say, back, several years back when he was a little younger, he'd say, "Papa has a widow foot, a little foot." And but I'm lucky I survived that. But my quest to try to get my eyesight back and try to gain enough health to get back on my feet, to even live, to start straightening out my organs, I had to develop ways to cleanse and get the toxins and damaging effects out of my body. So in fact, I made a trip to Wisconsin with a friend of mine. I was still, being asked and begged to do some different products, and a friend of mine was connected with Costco, which I think was called Price Club or something back then. And they desperately wanted me to do a protein drink, and he begged me to go to Wisconsin with him. So I went back. There was an Indian doctor there. We met. We talked about different ingredients and things that he had there that I was trying to help my friend out. And I had explained I was kind of bumping into things because I had no vision, on my left side. And I explained, this challenge and the health and what I was trying to do. And he said, you need the ingredient from India. It comes out of the Himalayas that's harvested. And Patty, this is something I wanted to tell you earlier, but I wanted to wait for the call. Yeah. So, because probably nobody really knows what I'm going to tell you. It's not really well advertised, but it's just one of those benefits of Isagenix, and its power. But one of the ingredients is Shilajit. Shilajit actually is plant life that's 15 million years old, that actually comes out of the Himalayan mountains. During the summer, it's kind of squeezed out from the trillions of pounds, of pressure, into the cracks in the cliffs, and it kind of oozes out almost like a black tar, and it dries, and the Nepalis go up and collect this. Well, there was a company in India that I sought out after meeting with this guy in Wisconsin to try to find out the source. If this was real, how it worked, and what it would do for me in cleansing my body and getting rid of all of these chemicals and antibiotics and so forth out of my body. So I finally called somebody in India, and it was a laboratory in Bangalore. And this is kind of a miracle story. God actually sent me there, and I picked up the phone and I asked for the managing director of the laboratory that they were purifying this Shilajit. So the guy gets on the phone, and very strong, thick Indian accent. He says, "Hello, this is," and I didn't hear the beginning. I didn't catch his name. And I said, "Are you the managing director of the lab? I've understood that Shilajit is being shipped to you and you're purifying it." And he said, yes, very much. And very thick accent. But it sounded almost familiar, like maybe somebody I'd talked to from India before. And so I told him, all of these legends and things, and how the Nepalis use this as, the destroyer of weakness to bring people back into a state of health. And I said, how long are you going to be there? Are you going to be there for the next week or two? And he says, yeah, I'll be actually traveling to the United States in 2 months. I can look you up. And I said, no, I'll be there next week. So I hung up the phone and I turned to Cher. Let me finish telling you about the call. Okay. So I said, again, sir, I kind of missed your name. What is your name? And he says, my name is Dr. Mohammed Majid. And I said, Dr. Majid, this is John Anderson. John, where have you been? What have you been doing? I actually knew this guy in India. Wow. And he has a company on the East Coast. And it was kind of a miracle. I was actually talking to somebody around the other side of the world that I actually knew. What a fluke, absolute deal.
No, there's no coincidences. We know.
We went over. He had 51 PhDs. Oh my gosh, I have pictures. Let me maybe before the call, if Cher, if you're listening to this, come down and get the pictures. I'll actually hold up a picture in 2000. This was in mid-2000 with me and 51 PhDs, with my safari hat on, working with these people for 2 weeks at their lab. And I discovered some amazing things. Not only did they have botanical gardens, Ayurveda, medicines they've been using for thousands of years, but I learned about Shilajit, and one of the microns, one of those little molecules called a dibenzoyl alpha pyrone, that actually has the ability to enter the bloodstream, and it's almost like a sponge under a microscope. It looks like similar to a sponge, and it has little pockets, that are filled with these little nutrients, from this plant life. And the dibenzo alpha pyrone, when it hits the bloodstream, it starts to swell up, and all of these little cargo offload and become disconnected out of these little pores of the sponge, which are nutrients that circulate around and give us mineral and trace minerals and other phytochemicals that are 15 million years old. Here's the miracle part. The empty shell sponge circulates through the bloodstream, and it has an affinity to attract heavy metals. So it'll attract heavy metals. They will actually onboard as cargo onto the pyrone and circulate till they hit a specific weight, and then it's expelled and thrown out of the body and filtered through the liver, and you get rid of it out of the body. So it actually helps in heavy metal cleansing in the bloodstream.
So wait a minute, everybody's saying, well, wait a minute, you discovered this for yourself, but how can they get it?
It's in Isagenix.
I've heard stories, Don, about the big monkeys, white monkeys. Is it true? Is there any truth to this? Can you tell us about the 6 foot?
These, let me preface this. These are amazing stories. If he's going to share the story, I would listen very.
This is crazy. This is so funny. The Indian doctor in Wisconsin started telling me about these huge 5 foot tall, white-faced monkeys called macas. I think it was maca. It was a langor maca monkey, and he was saying that they have been seen climbing from the lower, like the Royal Chatwan National Forest down by Nepal Ganj, and then at the base of the Himalayas, just inside the border of Nepal from India, that these monkeys will climb and go up the mountain to altitudes of like 14, 15, 16, 17,000 feet. There's not a lot of vegetation up there, so they're not going up to eat, or to, gather anything, with the exception they climb onto the cliffs. And when the oozing during the warm summer months, the mountains kind of contract and expand, from winter to summer, and it causes cracks. And that's where this tar type material, this pitch, oozes out. And they'll go up there and they'll scoop it and they'll eat it and then go back down the mountain. But they're enormous. So when we were actually in India, and discovering all of these things, I said, Dr. Majid, I want to do kind of a documentary on these langor monkeys. I want to go up and film. And he says, no, it's impossible. And I said, nothing's impossible. I said, I need a translator, I need a guide, and I need a way up there. And he was telling me no, and I wouldn't leave. We were there, and I said, Dr. Majid, I'm not leaving India until we can arrange to do this. So he brought a botanist, plant expert in and introduced us. Really nice guy, really nice. He didn't know what he was about to get himself into, but it was like the biggest expedition of his life. Also, he introduced me to a cameraman, and he said, these two would travel with you, and you need to fly from Bangalore to Lucknow, and from Lucknow, we'll have 2 trucks, and you'll caravan up through into Nepal Ganj, and then hopefully they'll let you fly up into the Holy Land, where they don't really let tourists go, up into Umla and Jumla, where these people, the Nepalis, such nice people, actually harvest, and bring the Shilajit down and ship it to him. So he arranged this whole trip, and at that time I was really sick. I was so ill. We brought a doctor, friend of ours, who was working with us along, very athletic, very strong, because honestly, and share pretty much knew this. I brought him along because I thought I was going to die on the trip because I was so weak, and I knew, Cher would need help. And if I were to die, he would be able to help Cher to get my body flown back to the United States and so forth. I didn't even think I was going to make it home.
Wow.
I mean, I was so sick, and I was packing around IVs, in kind of a pressurized ball where you can set them on the ground. You don't have to hang them on a pole, giving myself, intravenous IVs, on occasion. So I was in really bad shape. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we made the trip. We got into Nepal Ganj. My health was not good enough. Also, Cher had a severe heat stroke from, extreme hot weather. We finally were able to secure to get Mike, our doctor, the cameraman, and the botanist on a plane, and they flew into Jumla, and the people that collect the Shilajit brought him into their little huts, their little rock houses. He disappears for a week, and we're down there, we're waiting. We're trying to go into the forest. We're trying to investigate, further, the botanicals there. They came back. The cameraman had almost lost his thumb. I mean, it was an expedition. We had the video footage of collecting of Shilajit, but that to make, and I'm sorry I'm so long-winded about this, but it's very passionate, and it meant a lot to me to bring the health back into my life, because I started getting some light. It started with a little dim light. It increased to I can actually see my hand moving, so I'm not totally blind in my left eye. It helped with the organs, and I mean, that was one of those ingredients that really helped, which I brought back. Then in 2000, getting back to 2000, I was, of course, retired. I had sold my company, and I was trying to really, just work on my own personal health. A friend of mine in Laguna Beach, Dr. Fred Bell, knew somebody by the name of Jim that had something incredible to share. And he says, there's a synergy. I feel it. There's something that you've got to meet this guy. And I said, Fred, I don't want to meet anybody. I don't want to go back into the business. He says, you've got to meet this guy. Something big, I can feel something big is going to happen. And this guy was very spiritual and intuitive and so forth. And I told him no for like 2 weeks. Finally, he gets him on the phone, does a conference call, introduces the guy by the name of Jim. Now, I had lost touch with Jim back in 1983 when he was the vice president of a company that grew to $1 billion overnight. It was just an overnight sensation. But I had lost touch with him. And in fact, at about that time, just a year prior to that, he actually started dating this beautiful lady, came into this event with this gorgeous lady on his arms and introduced, her. This is Kathy. And later on, they were married. And later on after that, had Eric. But after 83, I was kind of, doing my thing and they were doing their thing. Well, lo and behold, Dr. Fred Bell wanted to conference me with this Jim, and it happened to be Jim Coover. Reunited us, put us back in touch with each other after, like 17 years, of not knowing what they were really doing and just, living our own lives. Mm-hmm. So Jim and Kathy, it was such a pleasure to talk to him again. My stepfather and my mother really admired Jim. He was like the stud. He was that guy that all the women were just after, like by the hundreds and hundreds. He was so intelligent. He carried himself so well. I remember my stepfather, Logan Barkley, he said, John, and this is back in like the end of 1980, he says, I want you to come over to California and meet this guy. He's just a young buck, and he's such a really intelligent man, and he really knows his stuff. You're going to be really impressed with this guy, because I want you to get involved with this company that they're going to launch, very soon. And of course, that was the company that he took to $1 billion in sales. So he had been there and had the experience. So after being reunited, I told Jim what I was doing. We had returned from India. I was trying to get my health back. I went back to Arizona, built a small manufacturing plant. I had a lab there, and it was up and running. And it was built from, my employees that had worked for me for, the past 18 years prior, to falling ill with the brown recluse. And they said, we're going to be back in Arizona. And of course, Sharon and I partially kind of moved back to Arizona. We had a home there. So Jim and Kathy finally came into our little office, our humble office. And I explained what I'd been doing and what had happened in the past, 15, 17 years. And they told us, their stories of their involvement and continued success in network marketing. Jim posed a question that changed everyone's lives. And we had not really talked about any type of a business relationship, because they were thinking or contemplating moving to Arizona to enjoy the weather and so forth, because they were really in retirement. Jim said, in all of your years, what is the secret magic bullet? I'll never forget this day. What's that one ingredient that's going to change a person's life that will bring absolute health and well-being to a person? I really thought for a minute, and I said, Jim, it doesn't exist. There is not one ingredient that a person can take that's all they need. I said, Jim, there is a silver bullet, but it's a system. It's not one ingredient.
That's a good point.
And he says, remember the good old days, with the different products, that you see out there? Wouldn't it be great to come up with, like that silver bullet, that system that would bring health back to people? People are so sick today.
Yeah.
The foods are so deficient. Everything we're killing ourselves. Man are the only living creatures on this earth making a science of killing themselves. We need to try to make a science of reversing that and bringing back health like our ancestors had. I said, Jim, there is such a system. And I started talking about obesity and weight loss and toxicity and what I had gone through and all these ingredients. And I said, my gosh, there's a miracle thing called Shilajit with this cleansing factor, that can help, almost like in a chelation type of a natural that's found in nature. It's not a drug. It's not a chemical. It's a food. He said, wow, we could, how long would this take to research and actually do? A couple of years? And I said, no, I actually probably have all of the ingredients to put the system together right now. Let me work on it. And then, we'll meet and, I'll kind of present some ideas, and kind of see what you think. And that, lo and behold, was kind of evolved into the 9-day cleansing system. But we didn't call it a cleansing system at that point. It was really kind of a fast start. The original Cleanse for Life was called Fast Start, which would help the body to reduce, caloric intake, rid the body, try to get rid of fat, because your fat enrobes toxins. Actually, the CDC did launch a study. It's probably even about 10 years ago, which I was preaching to people for like the past 25 years, that toxins get trapped in your body and they can't exit. They're enrobed in fat, and you need to melt that fat. You need to burn that fat to be able to uncover these toxins that can do damage and get them out of your body. So there has to be weight reduction. There has to be caloric reduction. There has to be, an immediate flush of nutrients, massive nutrients. It will help support the body, because if you lose weight and you don't support your body, have you seen people lose weight the wrong way and they're flabby and their skin just hangs from them? I used to have a nutritionist friend of mine, Dr. Richard Hill. He used to tell people in the early days, people would hold out their arms and they would have this flap down, and he says, they look like a B-52 bomber coming in for a landing, because, and all of this. Yeah. The problem with not supporting yourself with healthy nutrition. So anyway, we sat out on the table a food, a very dense, rich food shake, the Fast Start, which was the 32-ounce liquid, the accelerator capsule that would speed up, kind of as a thermogenic that would speed up naturally the body, so you would have the thermogenesis to actually, increase your metabolism, speed up your metabolism to burn more fat. And then also the snack, which would help support keeping the colon active, during that 48-hour cleanse, and also help to keep your blood sugar up. And we calculated, and he said, well, how long will this last? And I said, well, there's so many servings here, and calculated this. And I said, this will last us 9 days. And we tried it. Lo and behold, hence the 9-day cleansing and fat burning system. And that's why it was called the 9-day, because it happened to be 9 days worth of product in that system when we first tried it. And that was literally the beginning. We tried like 250, a little over 250 people that we all knew collectively with the product, and we got such totally amazing results that Jim said, we can't keep this from the public. I don't look at Kathy and I, we're in retirement. Somebody's got to go out and share this with the world, but we're out. We don't want to do this. But it's so miraculous. He says it's got to be shared with, you can't keep this a secret, because it could change human health. I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm kind of
other people.
But when you originally approached Jim and Kathy, didn't it take you more than one time asking?
Oh, I begged him. After knowing how good this product worked, they got amazing results. Everybody got amazing results. But I mean, can you imagine the commitment? Eric was, gosh, I don't even know how, Eric was just a teenager, pretty young and everything. And they didn't really want to roll up their sleeves and do it again. They've been there, done that. And I said, you know what, I can't do this, because you're the marketing genius. You are the guy that my mother trusted with her life, that my stepfather, Logan Barkley, bragged about you. Even in his sleep, he admired you so much. You're the genius behind all of the marketing. And besides, I don't know how to put together a compensation plan. And I've understood from what I've heard now about your reputation, you're it. There is no more. It's Jim Coover or there's no deal. And so I said, gosh, I'll fund this. I was very, very, very successful in my other company. I had, 450 employees. It was an incredible company. My gosh, just GNC account alone, I was doing $100 million a year just with one account. And I said, we don't need to worry about the money. I'll put whatever it takes into this. And I know it costs millions of dollars we're not going to borrow money because I've got the money. I'll put the money into it. We'll fund it. We've got Patty Raphael, who it was actually with me prior to the launch of Isagenix. Scott Floor. There was this little core of just a small group, and I had Cher there. We weren't married At that point, we didn't get married until 2004. And I begged him. And I said, you don't need to worry. I need your help. And I said, Jim, and I looked at him and I said, look, you've been to my house. You know, I had this enormous collection of Harleys and Indians, and there was like 38 motorcycles in my garage up in PV that he had seen. And I said, look, I'll give you one of my motorcycles, so you're going to have a bike to ride down here. Go in and pick out any bike you want. You know, just I've got to have you come on board. Okay. He looked at Kathy and they said, let's do it. And that was literally the bonding, the relationship. They knew they had to share this system, and they knew I couldn't do it by myself. And it was a marriage made in heaven, because without them, there would be no Isagenix. Without her sticking by me and saving my life, there would be no Isagenix. I owe my life to my wife, Cher, because she literally kept me alive, and is just I've just been so near death so many times that I had to bring health back. And I mean, I'm here today. I feel like I'm going to be here for the next, I don't know how many years, but I know I'll live to be over 100. And we're, as I tell Jim and Kathy, and as they tell me, John, we're just getting started, and it's getting better and better because technology is getting better. We're improving these products every day and putting the money and the backing behind keeping up with the technology. You know, different generations of the shakes and product B and so forth. You know, you're going to see a lot of changes. There will always be changes. We're never going to stay stagnant and the same old company doing the same old thing, because we're not the same old company. I'm not the same person as I was 20 years ago. If we had 1980s technology in this system, we wouldn't be here today. You know, would be so far outdated. So, and it takes you both. It takes every person. It takes every leader, every associate, every Isagenix family in the field, because the lifeblood, the heartbeat of Isagenix are you and all of your associates and every single person that contribute and want to share health and wellness to people, and the financial freedom. So the company would not be here today without its associates, and they're the first people that I thank. I don't edify myself for the products. That's the one source, but there may be some in some of the other products right now.
And so, John, where do you, for the sake of time, because we want to respect your time, you've given us a lot and we definitely appreciate it. But tell us some of the things you've got going on now. Where do you see happening in the future, maybe in the next 12, 36 months down the line?
Well, let's see. I don't want to tell too many secrets.
Come on.
We have to have a little bit of secrets, but you know, I've been working. There's some missing kind of ignored parts of human health that have been coming about in the past several years, you know, that were kind of thought of, but not in the depth of what we've been researching. In my private lab, you know, DreamMaster, we have 2 different lab locations, and we've been doing a lot of research for quite a number of years. And we've been researching some of the missing links that we're finding now are attributed to at least 80% of your immunity and how it's built. That's a big deal, because if we can increase the immune system, like exponentially, dramatically, we're going to have better health. And with that better health, we're going to ward off, you know, all of these chemicals, toxins, rogue, you know, things that enter the body that are foreign invaders that attack us. And if we have a really good immune system with the right, and I can't get into how this is actually going to work, but it's a technology that hands down will change the world. It will change the way humans' health are and how we're treated in the future. It's that big.
Wow.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
Also, you know, we've been working on a 5th generation product B. That's one of the products that doesn't really get a lot of publicity, but it's really something extremely necessary in telomere science and telomere research and biology. But there's more. It's not just a matter of seeing how long you can live, but the quality of life during your life. It's more important to have a better quality of life to see how many extra years you have on this earth. Because I really don't want to, you know, live and be unhealthy, laying in a bed somewhere with an adult diaper on. You know, I want to be up and healthy and out, you know, able to get around and so forth with quality of health. That's what we're working on right now. So, you know, upcoming, there's some really, really good things that we've discovered that we're going to bring into the next generation of product B, you know, hopefully in a good, timely manner that literally are going to improve our health dramatically.
You coming up with this and interacting with Jim and Kathy, many of us on this line are on this Zoom presentation. You know, the financial part of our lives has changed dramatically as well. Some of us made millions and millions and millions of dollars, and a lot of us are making 6 figures a year, and a lot of people are making enough money right now where, you know, that extra money is a big deal for these families. And you know it's going to get better. We really believe it. Patty and I really trust and believe in what you do and what you bring to the table in the timely fashion you bring it to the table. It just always seems to be at the right time, John. Whenever you put out something, the timing is spectacular.
You know, back to Logan Barkley. You know, I learned many things from him, you know, quite a number of years ago. Timing is everything. And it was the right time that Jim and Kathy were going to move to Arizona. Everything just fell into place. You know, I just feel we were put together by God for a reason. And, you know, it's like the timing of the non-dairy products, the vegan products. You know, those were long overdue. And pre-surgery, I had to have back surgery, unfortunately, and couldn't make it to Celebration and so forth. But, you know, I was, you know, watching the videos and everything. Jim brought him onto stage. But, you know, I gave Jason, he's been working with me in the lab for, oh gosh, over 5 years now. And I gave him the perimeters of, you know, the basis of what I wanted to see in a non-dairy shake, and turned him loose. And through trial and error and so forth, and learning from me over the last 5 years, he would go in and come out with samples, you know, that would maybe be a little off in flavor, but all of the basic ingredients and everything were there. And he learned that I wasn't going to hold his hand. And he literally, you know, I attribute 80%, at least 80% of all of those vegan products to Jason alone, because he created the chocolate, the vanilla chai, the non-dairy berry bar. I don't know if you've tried that, but it's delicious.
Love it.
You know, and the peanut butter. And there are more products that he's developed, but he's come a long ways. So just as Eric is the future of Isagenix, Jason is the next generation of formulators that, you know, I'm teaching and passing on my knowledge so that our next generations are going to have and be able to continue to hold this together, to continue to improve people's lives. So next time you see Jason at Celebration, give him buckles, give him a high five, because he's awesome. He's doing a good job out there, and it's teamwork. It takes the R&D department. It takes all of the corporate executives, and Jim and Kathy have like glued the seams of that company together like a structure that can't be, you know, fouled or implode or explode like all these other companies. They're the glue that's held this company together. So all of us together as a team and our next generations and everything, this company is going to build, like as Kathy and Jim say, more financially successful, not only millionaires that people depend on to make their car payments, to make a house payment, and have the health to be able to proudly go out and share these products because they're the best.
You're cleansing, you're getting yourself all juiced up with the highest quality nutrition on the face of the planet. Your body responds. People feel better within days. People look better within days. And we thank you.
You don't need to make claims, because really all we're doing is creating a system that puts back the natural God-given nutrients that are on the face of this earth back into the body that are lacking in our foods. We're only supplementing the deficiencies and giving ourselves back what our great-great-great-great-grandparents had, where they didn't really have a lot of those deficiencies, and we're more diversified people, and we come from